last production I'll be looking at is a short one because the scoring was quite poorly made, and I simply did not have the time to fully go in depth to the extent that I wanted to. But it's the film Pineapple Express, which is about a pot smoking process server and his drug dealer Saul, and they have to like run for their lives after like this man, a big drug dealer, spotted them watching them accidentally committing a crime, which is a murder. This movie was stars Seth Rogen and James Franco, and it's one of my all-time favorite movies. And it's got like this really good scoring already, like a very hip hop orientated score. So I wanted to have a go of that and try and make it myself. The research I did in like the 80s hip hop and the hip hop growth into gangster rap was very extremely useful for this particular track, as I did not know a lot about like the hip hop elements that I wanted to incorporate in this track. For example, the like very old 70s hip hop with the looping beat of the breakbeat. I did not know that it was called the breakbeat, and I didn't know that the breakbeat was the most important part, as I just made beats that I thought was sounded similar. But I didn't know that it was a most crucial element in hip hop. So I actually decided to try and make a breakbeat. I studied a breakbeat, like the most famous one, and then I made it into this new hip hop beat, which I thought was very good and fit it extremely well. I also used sampler machines that college provided to try and create the hip hop drum machine. Because the old one was I couldn't because the old and original machine that they used was quite expensive and I couldn't find one, which was the SP 1200. Um, I could not find it, so I just decided to make it myself. By trying to stylize the similar sound um, for what that machine does by using kits on Logic, which were quite similar. So that is another way that research was very useful. I also used the TR. Oh yeah, I also used the the research that was the TR 808 drum machine because I really wanted to use an 808, and I didn't know if this hip hop track needed 808 because I always thought that 808s were included in more like very heavy hip hop songs. For example, like Aphex Rocky, which has more of Aphex Rocky. No, sorry, no, sorry, ASAP Rocky, not Aphex. I've been doing a lot of Aphex Twin stuff, so they just merged into one. But ASAP Rocky uses a lot of 808 because his producer Clam Casino is quite melodic based hip hop, which is what I was really into. But when I listened to like NWA, which was what I also used as the example of hip hop turning into gangster rap, I realised that 808s were used quite a lot. So I decided to incorporate that into this track. Um, I also used synthesizers as I found out that later on in gangster rap, they started to use synthesizers to make their music, as it was just a very big thing at the time, especially in the 1990s. Like Snoop Dogg used a lot of synthesizers, so I decided to use that research and incorporate that in the production by using the Tylenol N6 for all of the sounds I wanted to make. I did kind of go an MF Doom sort of way, but all of this really did help me to create the sound that I wanted to do. I did really want to use the Juno 60, but as I've said in my synthesizer production, I didn't really have time to use that. Well, I no, that wasn't the reason why. I just couldn't find something for a very cheap price. So the best that I could use was the Tylenol N6, which I talked about in my synth productions, which I found out was like the much more better rather to a price wise because it's free VST synth rather than the Roland Juno N6. So I used that, and I also used no, I didn't use. That was it. That was all I used. So the kit The drum kit that I used was called the Autumn Leaves, which I know doesn't sound very hip hoppy, but the sounds that it came from was like very 90s um, hip hop MF Doom sound. I will show you right now. Like that kick is very hip hop sounding, and I tried to like EQ it to make it sound more of like an 808, and I was gonna pitch it down, but decided that the production would just not sound right. So I put the lower frequencies from about 60, and I increased it all the way up so it sounded more boomy. That's all I did for the kick, but I wanted to show you more of the sounds that I thought were very useful and cool in this synth. So we got this, which is another sampler, and that's another reason why this kit is so good. Sorry about that. That was another reason why the kit was so useful, as a like the very early start of hip hop was using sampler, and so with this kit having a sampler in it, I thought it was a very cool callback to how hip hop created, which was like this whole massive usage of sampling and like the merry-go-round technique of like hopping between each samples. So I was going to use that, and I actually ended up doing that. Sorry, I didn't end up using the sample, but I did use the kit as I thought it was a cool callback, and having that sample in it showed that it was very hip, like early hip hop. In it had that very original hip hop sound, which is why I decided to use this. So I actually did use the sampler because I thought it was that sound sounded like really early hip hop, like MF Doom, which is what my main inspiration was for this track. So that was a tape loop effects one, which is just the name of the sound on the Autumn Leaves, and I did a little bit of EQing on it. So I put the 500 hertz frequencies up and the 3K hertz up because I wanted it to be of like a really high sounding hip hop kit. And the way I made it even more high sounding was by putting the lower frequencies from 20 to 200 down. So all of the low end were gone, apart from the kick, obviously, which was increased from 80 hertz all the way up. So I copied the Autumn Leaves tape effects track left and right. So because I wanted it to sound in two different directions. And the reason why that was because I wanted there to be a lot of space in this track because the vocals of the scene were quite low and I wanted to be pushed forward. I then used the Black Moth Keys synth, which is probably my favourite track that my favourite synth preset that I found on the Tylenol N6, and it's got like this really nice Ronan Juno-esque sound. So I really wanted to incorporate that by also using the chorus effect, which is why it has that like ringing out. But this is what it sounds like, and that chord is C minor, and I thought that chord sounded really mysterious and like really it cut out. But I wanted to make it some kind of more mysterious because like I didn't want it to have like a sound that was too happy because that synth makes everything sound a lot happier or really sad, and I didn't want it to be really happy or sad. I wanted it to be more mysterious and more like gritty, which is what MF Doom's really known for in the sound kind of way, and what like hip hop mostly uses. Though I don't have any proof for that. But I also oh shit, but that goes into A major 7 note chord which I wanted to incorporate as I think it just sounded cool and it sounded like really mysterious. Adding that seventh really made it sound more interesting. And then my favorite chord of this whole scoring goes into this, which is a C can't even say that. C major sharp 13, which just sounds absolutely beautiful. It just sounds like it's clipping. But yeah, having that really made it sound just beautiful, and I wanted to incorporate that in because I'm really into like very melodic stuff, and I just couldn't not have like a melodic chord in this track because I love this synth so much. But I just repeated that. I put that on loop, which follows the Autumn Leaves drum beat, which is this. I'll show you it right now. Which was very breakbeaty, which I thought was perfect. But yeah, so the pattern for the Autumn Leaves is kick, 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 snare, kick, 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 snare, and it just repeats that. It's very simple, but I thought it was very breakbeaty, so I decided to use that. I also used the bass that the kit provided. This kit, the Autumn Leaves, came with a lot of samples, and so using that was really useful because like all of the samples that it came with sounded really hip hop in corporate. It sounded really like much more hip hop. So I decided to use the bass, which I have no idea what it's called besides just the bass one Autumn Leaves name. But I thought it sounded really beautiful. And it goes from, so the bass line goes from C to F, which I think was a mistake because I did want to sound sharp, but here's the bass line. Which is supposed to follow the kit. So like the way the kick goes, like the kick goes kick, 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 snare. I want it to have that more rhythmic in the bass. So the bass goes bass, bass. Oh, sorry. C, 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 and then quickly C, C, and then F, which was kind of similar to the drum kit. There was mixing on that, so that had mixing from 80 hertz up. So I boosted frequencies from 80 hertz then up because I wanted to sound really not too bassy, but bassy enough. The reason why I didn't want to sound too bassy was because this is kind of an underscore rather than a proper scoring. Like, yes, I did create it for the scene, but it's not very, doesn't have a lot of techniques, which was kind of the reason why I thought it was a failure. One more thing that I wanted to say was the Black Moth Dreams synths I copied, and as in like I copy and pasted down and I panned them left and right the same way that the Autumn Leaves loop is. So this one, that was panned exactly how the Black Moth's Dreams were. And the reason why that was is because I wanted to fill in space, but I wanted it to to be in the same place where like the lead loop was. So this, because I just wanted to push that back more so that the vocals sound more extra. Because I didn't use the mixing technique that I learned in the book, because this is one of the first like things I did, and so it wasn't very good, and it was quite just not very finished, and I wish I could use more mixing, but yeah, that's it really. In a scene, they're literally just smoking weed, like that's all it is, and so like I just thought that I could try and make something more relaxing. I really wanted to make it like an action scene and use like the action scene that happened later on, but I decided that I didn't really have any time and I wanted to make the person be in a Wallflower project, so I just pushed that back, and all of this came really pushed back to be honest. But yeah, that was my production of Pineapple Express. For the mastering, all I did was cut like higher frequencies down from 3K, and then I just pushed that down, and that's literally all the mastering I did. This was not very mastered very well because it was quite like unfinished, and I wish I had more time. But yeah, that was Pineapple Express. Um, yeah.